Did you know that paying off your mortgage, especially on a rental property, could cost you millions and millions of dollars? We're going to go through a live example where the lumberjack and I review what Dion did that cost him millions and millions of dollars. All righty, Dion, let's go.
It's like an arrow, just right to the one feel I have left. But it's true. And I was thinking of this from the perspective of in the last 3 years, right? Just the last three, not only it's been going on for a decade, but the last 3 years, the crash bros have been standing on the mountaintops screaming because it gets views. There's a crash coming. Wait, when interest rates drop, you can buy. When prices drop, you can buy. When the end of the world happens, you can buy. And all these things. So since I watch one rental at a time, right? And in January of 2020, I bought a fourplex. In November of 2020, I bought a triplex. In 2021, a duplex. And then I saved and I just bought my next duplex. Like, how much money have I made because I didn't listen to the Crash Bros? But then I started thinking, at some point, I listened to some financial person in the Ramsey world and thought paying off a mortgage might be a good thing. Now, there were a couple of mitigating factors. You were allowed to have 4 mortgages in your name. I had hit 4. I didn't know about DSCR, asset-based seller financing. I wasn't educated. So I focused all my cash flow and extra income, beyond living expenses for about 1.5 years and paid off $121,000 on a mortgage. So the mortgage was 6%. It was my highest mortgage and it was my smallest amount. All my others are duplexes. So they were, 200,000 or 300,000, but it was my one single family. I'd had it for the longest time. So I focused and paid it off. Which means, since I didn't buy a rental with the same $121,000, that house, I'm only gaining appreciation on $121,000 on that house. If I purchased a rental, I start a new depreciation schedule, which means I can make more money in real estate that I don't have to pay taxes on. The $121,000 would have got me another small multifamily worth at least $400,000 because it would have been just the 25% down payment, right? Even on a big down payment.
Yep.
Almost every year since 2018, 2017, when I paid that mortgage off, the worst year I think we had was 10% appreciation. But in 2020, 2021, we saw 24%, 19%. And in 2022, just last year alone, was 15%.
So, I don't know if you have the numbers, but if you were to, let's just play this out with memory. So in 2018, what could you have bought for $500,000? It's got to be at least a fourplex, if not a couple, right?
So I bought a fourplex in 2020 for $590. Like, it was really close then. So if we go back to 2018, I would have got a fourplex.
All right, so you would have got a fourplex. So now you're into this thing for $500,000, and you got what, 18, 19, 20? Oh my God! So you're looking at what's a fourplex today go for? It's got to be like 800, 850, like maybe
$1 million.
No, my 590 now is valued at like 1.6. I rest 3 on that. What do you call that grown-up sheet you have to submit for DSR loans? The personal.
PFS, personal
financial statement, right? It's so all the estimates are 1.6.
Time out. I want to hear that again. You have a fourplex that you paid roughly $600,000 for in 2019,
which it was worth much more than that when I bought it. Like I said, this was a bad listing.
But they exist. You could have done that again.
Yeah, could have done it.
Stop it. Stop creating excuses. $600,000. It is worth what today?
I estimate 1.3.
What do other people estimate?
All of the other investors and the estimators are quoting 1.6. Because it's fourplex townhouse style, 1,200 square feet per unit, garage each unit. Like, it's not the big box square fourplex, right?
It cost you $1 million. $1 million paying off them. Like what? Like in 4 years, that was $1 million. That, ouch! I didn't realize it would be that bad that soon.
Like I said, it's right to the feel. It's just,
ouch.
I honestly don't regret having a paid off property, right? There's that weird, stupid thing because it doesn't matter. My equity position is the same. I paid off 121,000, or I could have invested 121,000 in another property. I don't own more
Your
of that.
equity position is not the same. You're
That's
down
what
$1
the
million
new
bucks.
investor can't understand. The new investor thinks, no, paid off house, I own it. You own the amount of equity that the house is worth, whether that's how much the house is worth, or if it's worth 3 times that, and then you have debt on 2/3 of it. This
is painful.
And that's just till now.
Oh, I know.
We're up 7% this year over year. So it's a smaller year, but 7% of a million.
It's smaller on a bigger number.
And the zero and the J amount. I've lost a lot of money.
Oh, I'm a loss for words. I got to let Matt jump in because I don't know what to say.
He's been waiting.
Idiot. Hey, we've all made mistakes like this. And, you know, I mean, the nice thing is that 9 times out of 10, we're on the winning side of that deal. The downside is that there's still that piece of all of us where we feel there's parts based on the broken parts inside us. We're making a decision that we know or feel is right in the time, ends up exposing us 3 years later or 4 years later, like, ah, crap. That was a major mistake. You know, I mean, I sold some multis that I couldn't wait to get out of. Right. And, you know, I sold them in an area where I think I got about 300 grand a piece. Those would trade in the mid fives, like 550 now. The only good thing is when I sold them, I took the 80 and 90 grand that I did on each of them, and I actually bought something else in a better and faster growing market. Right. Like that's the only upside. But that's the key. I mean, the challenge is like I said, 9 times out of 10, we make the right decisions on this stuff. And I get it. Like I get that emotional tie to having something paid off. The problem that I have is that no property is actually ever paid off. You always owe taxes on it. It's never, ever always paid off. And you always have taxes. You always have insurance. You always have maintenance. You always have expenses to that property. So the fallacy of something being paid off is just that. It's a fallacy. And the worst part is that now you don't have a bank with any interest in your survival. You know, now you've got insurance companies that are like, yeah, the guy owns it outright. Like, let's try and screw him on it because there's no mortgage. There's no debt. We're not going to have to fight a bank on any of this stuff. We only have to fight a homeowner. And we got thousands of attorneys. So I mean, at the end of the day, we all have a story like that, you know, sadly, but you know what? I don't know. It's $1 million. Like, yeah, that hurts, but
yeah. I you know, it's funny. I'll own something just so Dion doesn't feel alone. I think I've told this story before. In 2019, Olivia and I sold 2 of our bigger apartment buildings because in Fresno, California, you know, historical cap rates, well, let's just call it 6.5 or 7. They got down to like 5.5, which, you know, in my experience is a crazy number for a C-class apartment that needs work. So we sold. Dude, these properties went down to 4. So we lost out on probably $1 million, maybe 800 grand to $1 million if we sold a year or 2 later. And that was all because of cap rate compression and easy money and all of that. So I didn't see a pandemic coming. Shame on me, you know, but you know, so you're not alone, Dion. I've made mistakes that I look back on and go, oh, that hurt. But I do want to talk about one more thing, because something that Matt and I did that again turned out extremely well in our case was we not only didn't pay off a mortgage, we did what's called cash out refis or 1031 exchanges. So we took a very little bit and kept using it over and over again and just expanded the base that, you know, when property values go up 20%, it's really good to have a big base. So that was something else that we did, right, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, the cash out refi worked out pretty well, right? I mean, you got all your debt at under 4. I've got all mine like right around 4. I think I have, you know, 3 assets that are on that adjustable rate debt. Don't care. You know, they're worth 2, 3, 4x what I paid, what I have for debt on them. So it doesn't matter. It's kind of like, all right. So if the debt refactors, who cares? But yeah, I mean, that strategy worked out well, but that was also, how did you use that? Did you use that to propel growth?
Oh, it has to be.
It has to be, right? And it's the why. Why did you take the money out? Well, that propelled our growth from, you know, 70 or 80 to about 130, 140. We're spending through that now and improving. You know, we probably spent $1,600,000, $1,700,000 or so on buying, another almost 10 million bucks worth of assets.
Mhm.
And then we've spent another 800 on those assets, vastly improving them. So in a lot of cases, rents could double on areas where it was like, you know what, the tenants moved out, they've moved on. We bought so many properties because the landlord couldn't make the numbers work.
Right.
Like, and so it's yeah, I mean, I think we all have those things. Like I said, those properties that I sold in Manchester, I was like, yeah, they're worth twice what I sold them for. Okay. But I did something with the money, not just paid off debt. Like mortgage.
So Dion, if you could go back and have that decision again, I just want to hear if you would change your.
Well, I've learned since then that I would never focus and pay off a mortgage. Right.
Okay.
So I'm going to make an addendum to a statement that my daughter said around the time when I was thinking of, do I pay off the house? Do I buy another rental? And again, you were allowed 4 mortgages in your name. So I had reached that conventional cap that has now 10, right? So it's gone up. And I, again, didn't know about DSCR, asset-based, seller financing, right? And I was just thinking, this is what I can do at the best rates without adjustable rates, loan reevaluation periods, all of those things. My daughter said, it's really hard to make a decision when both outcomes are positive. And she was like 16, it was a nanosecond of genius, right? So I've recorded it. She turned into an amazing woman that does a lot of smart things now. But as a teenager, it was a brilliant thing. And paying off the house, some stability, right?
Optionality.
Peace of mind, right?
Yeah.
Could eventually do a cash out refinance if I met people who talked me into it well enough, right? You guys failed. But
yeah.
So
we failed, but also we're right. But that's okay.
Right. Or buy another rental, increase the cash flow, increase the ability to gain appreciation and principal pay down and depreciation schedule and all that kind of stuff. It's 2 hard decisions to make at the time.
Yeah.
The addendum is, it's really easy to look back and see which was the right choice.
Yeah.
It's not easy at the time.
Sure.
No.
So I'm hoping people can learn from my mistake that you should look at all of the angles before you make a decision.
Yeah.
And most times it doesn't make sense to pay off the mortgages. And then I just had a gentleman who asked the question, and he's 61. And, there's a chronology to our investing where we're in growth phase, stabilization phase, retire and enjoy in phase. So there's no one right answer. You can't say always pay it off or always invest, but look at your overall situation. In my situation, at my growth phase that I was at, with my goal of retiring, it was the wrong call.
Yeah, the idea really is growth, stabilization, retirement, right? There are very different choices. I'm on the other side of that now, so I will tell everyone that we have several properties owned free and clear on purpose, right? I lived through the Great Recession. I have an oh shit pile just in case properties, right? Pull the emergency ripcord. But yeah, there's no chance I would have done that during growth phase. No.
What's that ripcord? Is it sell them?
Well, it could be anything. It
or
depends
lever
on
them with debt.
Probably lever them with debt.
Yeah.
Right. Go get, because I believe I can always go get 50% LTV.
I agree. Yep.
Right.
I agree. Well, even at its worst in the great financial crisis, you could still get 65%.
Correct.
Even at its worst, even when banks weren't writing debt, they would say, okay, we'll give you a 65%. It's like, I mean,
yeah. So the worst case I've always thought is I could go get 50% relatively quickly.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. But back to your point, Dion, if I had to redo my decision on my apartment buildings, given the data I had, I would still have chosen to sell. It was the right decision. There was just historical elements, a once in a time pandemic. The Fed started buying mortgage bonds, crazy stuff I could have never predicted. It was still the right call, but it still hurts. I still think about it. $1 million is $1 million. Yeah. Very cool. Well, Matt, where can people find you?
Well, as the real estate investor who doesn't have any bad decisions I've ever made.
All right.
I'm kidding, of course.
I know.
No, yeah. I've made plenty. Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube and on Instagram. And we'll be updating the file this week on the jail because I think we'll be getting our drawings back this week. And so we're almost through design phase, and then we start going for permits and telling the city what we're doing and see if we can get some approvals.
Nice. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch
Should
happen.
be fun.
Definitely a passion project, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of fun elements to that project. So I'm excited to help it be a good project for me and for the community. So it'll be fun.
There you go. Dion, where can people find you?
You can find me right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, where sometimes I cry about losing $1 million, or sometimes, like today, when we're recording this, my live stream is going to be about how a decision in the lending world just made me more than $1 million overnight.
Ooh, I
Yeah.
like it. Thanks, guys.